Welcome to The Blue Dot, Northern Kentucky's premier political podcast, brought to you by the Kenton County Democratic Executive Committee. Welcome back to The Blue Dot podcast, everyone, where we shine a light on the kitchen table topics that matter the most to Kentuckians. I'm Natalie MacDonald.
And I'm Brian Koehl. And today we're going back to school as we kick off the first segment of our Focus on Education series, where we will be diving into a topic that affects every family, every student, and every teacher in the Commonwealth, the Republican assault on public education.
Yeah, so as many Kentucky kids are returning back to school, we thought it'd be fun to take a look at how many of the Republican policies, from the Trump tariffs to the GOP budget cuts, are affecting education across the state. And it's really becoming clear that Kentucky's schools are under siege by the right. But there is hope, and we'll talk a little bit about how Democrats are fighting back.
Well, so I like the way you said we thought it'd be fun, because only you and I can have fun doing stuff like this.
Right, exactly.
Not only are Democrats fighting back against bad policies, they are focused on making good policies like pre-K for all. We'll also have a chance to talk about this topic and more with Jesse Brewer, who is running as a congressional candidate in the 4th District to unseat Thomas Massie.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to hear from Jesse. He has an amazing backstory, and he's so passionate about the issues that really hit home with the people he's fighting to represent. So really looking forward to having him on in a little bit.
Yeah, and we have a lot to cover as always, but last week you started off the podcast by celebrating a few wins, and, I think that's a really great way to kick things off, and Kentucky had some really big wins since our last podcast.
Yeah, you got that right, Brian. Governor Beshear had a couple really big announcements. I don't know, did you hear about the new Ford Motor investment in Kentucky?
Yeah, that is fantastic. They are investing $2 billion to launch a big universal electric vehicle system and platform in Louisville, which will support the making of a new self-sustaining mid-size electric pickup. So, that's great news. A huge investment.
Yeah, I hear that's going to be, it's going to be pretty affordable too, like starting around $30,000 for that mid-size pickup.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what self-sustaining means. I want to do a little more research, but the fact that they can keep the costs low is that this new platform in Louisville is Ford's launch of their revolutionized assembly, which will speed up the vehicle assembly by up to 40%.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I didn't know, I learned this. But Ford has been in Kentucky for over 112 years. The first Model T actually rolled off the assembly line in Louisville. So learned something fun fact about Kentucky, right?
Yeah, wow.
But this $2 billion investment is also set to create 2,200 jobs for Kentuckians. So it's good stuff for sure.
Well, 4 of the 5 largest private investments in state history have happened under Democratic leadership in Kentucky. And Governor Beshear just keeps them coming. This is something to really be proud about.
Yeah, and it didn't stop there. GE Appliances, whose global headquarters is also located in Kentucky, announced that it's going to invest $490 million into its global corporate headquarters at Appliance Park, and that's right outside of Louisville. It's the largest investment in the company's history, and really establishes Kentucky as America's destination for advanced manufacturing and job creation. They're on a hot streak for sure.
Boy, they are, and that's going to bring an additional 800 jobs to the region. So really great news for Kentucky. And all of that is just fantastic for Kentucky, and we really need to hear about those wins before we dive into our discussion on education. And this topic is truly too big to handle in just one episode, so we are breaking it up into a series of pod episodes focusing on this topic.
Yeah, so we'll kick it off today, giving a broad overview of the current status of the education system here in Kentucky and the attempts at both the federal and state level to dismantle it.
Yeah, and our next episode, we're going to look closer at the Pre-K for All initiative, what it is, and why we want it.
Yeah, and Brian, I do not have children, so I'm admittedly a little out of the loop on the challenges facing families with school-age children, but I did go to school. I did go to school here in Kentucky, and when it comes to some of the changes that have been made on the federal level, especially with student loan restrictions, I can certainly relate, as I fought that uphill battle to pay off my student loans once I got out of school.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that you're referring to the student loan limits that are set in the big ugly bill.
Yeah, if those restrictions were in place when I went to college, I wouldn't have a degree, and I certainly wouldn't have a graduate degree, that's for sure.
It's almost like they are intentionally making it harder for the average person to get a degree. if they need loans. Graduate students' annual borrowing cap will be set at $20,500. And if you want to get a professional degree by attending law or medical school, you are capped out at $50,000, which really is not even going to touch the cost.
Not at all. I was just having a discussion with a family member who wants to go to law school. And I was like, oh, that's great. And she's like, yeah, but she doesn't have the money to go to law school. And I was like, well, you can get the loans, but then when you think about it, you're not going to get very far for med school or law school when you're going to get capped out that quickly,
Right. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to do it.
It's just crazy. And then they have that Parent Plus borrowing program where parents of students can actually borrow money for their children, and that got capped out at $20,000 per student as well. And then that federal grant loan program previously allowed graduate students to borrow up to their cost of attendance. That's just completely eliminated for all new borrowers starting July 1st in 2026.
Yeah, this just doesn't help anyone. It only sets us back and makes us less competitive across so many industries. And while those are examples that hurt pretty much anyone seeking higher education, more federal changes are going to hurt states like Kentucky even more.
Yeah, and we're just saying this over and over about how rural states and states like Kentucky are being hurt by all of these policies. And Kentucky already faces so many challenges, but we are seeing some bright spots. It's not all bad. We were at one time not too long ago ranked 45th in education. And I suppose that's what happens when you have a previous governor who demonized and attacked educators and the education system itself. But we've gained a lot of ground fighting our way up to 34th under Governor Beshear's leadership, which is really quite an achievement.
Yeah, what a difference it makes when you have leaders who choose to invest in education in the state rather than defund it. So while we are investing here in the Bluegrass, we are fighting against the federal education cuts.
Yeah, and those cuts run deep, like we talked about. This federal grants make up 1 out of every $5 in Kentucky's school districts' budgets. So that's over $1 billion annually. So that funds school meals, special education, teacher training, and more. So all of that's being affected.
This is really important because when Republicans slash these funds, as they are doing, it's not just numbers on a spreadsheet, it's real consequences. Fewer teachers, fewer resources, and more kids going hungry.
Yeah, and remember those programs that connected Kentucky farmers with school cafeterias to feed those hungry kids?
Yes, I do. We spoke about those on the last pod. They're gone.
Yep.
The Trump administration ended it. That's bad for farmers, bad for kids, and bad for our local economy. And it's not just food. Kids are losing access to educational resources too. Funding cuts to KET mean fewer educational videos and programs in classrooms.
Yeah, and once again, it's those rural areas that are really going to get hit because in those rural areas, those federal dollars make up nearly half of the entire school budget. So again, these communities are just going to get hit the hardest.
Yeah. And on top of that, families are getting hit with the 1-2 sucker punch of funding cuts and the Trump tax, which is a self-inflicted consequence of the tariffs and trade wars. And these have driven up back-to-school costs by up to 51%. Families are taking on debt just to buy supplies, plus many teachers are trying to help fill this gap by paying for supplies out of their own pockets, which actually, I know quite a few teachers, and this is something that many of them have had to do before and have done over the years. But now it's just worse than ever. They're actually trying to fill huge gaps in funding and in supplies that they can't get in any other way.
Yeah, and it's a shame because, these teachers are struggling as well and then have to pull money out of their own pocket,
Right, yeah.
But, then we have that, if you want to stick with a boxing analogy there, we got that knockout punch too, which are the SNAP cuts and Medicaid cuts, which just means thousands of kids will lose access to food and health care. It's all catastrophic.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll be glad when we can get away from the pugilistic boxing, metaphors, and we can get into where we're doing like warm and cozy hugs and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm ready for that time to come back. But I think there are a lot of people that are unaware that there are over 22,000 homeless students that are being left behind. The budget ends all funding to help them stay in school or find stable housing.
Yeah, and I spoke a little earlier about those school loans that allowed me to go to college, but there's also been cuts to the Pell Grants, which are shrinking, and federal work-study programs are being gutted. And really for these low-income first-generation and disabled students, they really have nowhere to go to help get them a higher education if that's what they what they choose to do.
Yeah, and students who still qualify for aid might lose it if they pursue degrees in the wrong courses of study, such as education, social work, or health services.
Yeah, and I guess the good news is why the Republicans were really kind of throwing the first punch at all of this. The Democrats are fighting back. And this is where we get to get into the good stuff. Maybe some of those hugs and feel good stuff you were talking about, Brian.
Yeah, bring it on. I need it.
Yeah. So where the
I'm dying over here.
We need some good news again. So the actions the Democrats, are taking to really ensure that we invest not only in our children and our schools, but we're investing in the future. And that return on investment is just a strong economy and healthy children armed with a good education. And that's what we need, and that's what we're striving for.
Yeah, right. We've talked about how Governor Andy Beshear is leading the charge. He sued the Trump administration and won back $87 million for Kentucky schools.
And as you know, he's launching that Pre-K for All initiative, as we talked about earlier, which we're going to feature on our next podcast. But that's really focused on making sure that preschool is accessible to every child in Kentucky.
Yeah, and not only preschool, he's also made the GED test free. Since waiving these fees, over 14,000 Kentuckians have earned their GEDs. I mean, that is huge. So as usual, Democrats are pushing for better teacher pay, universal pre-K, and defending public schools from privatization schemes, which were voted down by the people of Kentucky.
Yeah, and we had some really big wins in the federal courts as well for public education. And hopefully that'll trickle down to benefit Kentuckians. Just last week in the U.S. District Court for Maryland, they ruled in favor of a coalition of educator associations and public school districts, declaring the Trump administration's move to censor lessons, eliminate public support programs, and force schools to comply with the administration's ridiculous civil rights interpretations were all ruled unconstitutional by Judge Stephanie A. Gallagher.
Yeah, this is a huge win for public education. This specific attempt by Trump and his sycophantic Republicans to make Americans dumber would have pulled federal funding from public school districts that refused to stop teaching history, sociology, and other lessons that involved race, as well as student support programs that these right-wing radicals determined included diversity, equity, or inclusion programming, their favorite anti-DEI, or fostered inclusive school environments for students of all backgrounds. On top of the funding cancellation, the administration was even threatening criminal penalties for not adhering to its views on civil rights. I mean, these guys make Orwell's 1984 seem like a children's bedtime story.
I mean, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore, which is crazy. I just saw before we came on to record this pod that Trump posted a Truth Social post calling basically all museums woke, especially the Smithsonian, who he said was out of control because literally, quote, they talked about how bad slavery was.
Oh my God.
Right? And so it's no wonder there was just a Pew Research poll that came out that had 83% of Blacks, 70% of Hispanics, and 66% of Asians indicating that they very strongly disapproved of Trump's job performance. So, when you're racially profiling and disappearing people by the thousands and writing slavery and civil rights out of the history books, attacking our museums for simply having the audacity to talk about our history, banning DEI programs and international studies from American universities, women's studies, everything is under attack. I mean, this is what you're going to get.
I wonder if this is why Republicans are resorting to cheating for the upcoming 2026 midterm elections. I'm referring, of course, to the mid-decade redistricting Trump demanded his cult to implement in Texas. But that is another topic for another day. Let's enjoy the most recent national legal smackdown of the regime's attempt to contaminate our public education system.
That's right, Brian. I feel like if they can't beat the Democrats at the ballot box, just take away the ballot box, right? Let's get rid of all mail-in voting, and let's get rid of all voting machines because Putin said that was the way it should be.
It's right there. It's in front of us. It's transparent. And anybody who keeps saying, he doesn't really mean it, you're not paying attention. This is real.
Absolutely.
We are actively fighting an authoritarian takeover. Come on, people, get with it.
Yes, we are beyond the constitutional crisis. We're here. We're here. Yeah, everything we've discussed so far just proves why voting is so important because we, the people, have the power to make the change that will make life better for everyone. And we have someone joining us today who you'll see on the ballot next November when you go to vote. And he has a few ideas of changes he'd implement if you vote for him to oust Congressman Massey in the 4th congressional district here in Kentucky.
Wait, you mean the Thomas Massey? The guy who declined our invitation to be on the podcast and refused to hold any town halls with his constituents during the congressional recess?
Yes, that Thomas Massey. But you know who isn't hiding from the voters? Jesse Brewer. And we have him here to discuss all of his plans and ambitions today. And just as a reminder, we do not endorse primary candidates, but we do provide a platform for all candidates' voices. And Jesse, thank you for being here on the Blue Dot podcast.
So thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun, and I'm excited to get to talk to you and let the people hear me.
That's great. So, Jesse, again, thanks for joining us. Your story is deeply rooted in Kentucky values and resilience. Can you share a little bit about how your upbringing in Gallatin County shaped your commitment to public service?
Of course, yeah, Gallatin County is the second smallest county in Kentucky. It's an amazing place. Drive your tractor to school. And then you get to go home afterwards, work in the fields, one of those things. It's super small and I love it. It's great. My mother died 5 days before my 13th birthday. And even prior to that, I had a large community of people that would act as a surrogate mother, if you will. And it was really a nice feeling. As a young adult, I was involved in marching band and the academic team, slew of events, and it was really nice. With all of that said, it feels great to be able to be part of a community like Gallatin County where I can just just be myself. It feels great to be part of a county that, as I grew up, I was not a rich man by any means. There were times where all we had to eat was just the food out of our garden. I remember the commodity summer sausages and cheeses, and that was our food. It was. Looking back, I was very humbled by the experiences that I had because it was a tough life, and I didn't realize it at the time how tough it truly was. And so now as an adult and I look back, those were really tough times. And I'm thankful that I'm not in those situations as we were back then. But now I want to be able to help people and be a voice and be an advocate for people that were in those tough times and are still experiencing them, not just in Gallatin County, which is near and dear to my heart, but in the 21 counties that I have here in the 4th District. And hopefully in the future, when I'm the next representative, but then I can take it on a larger scale and help others.
Yeah, so you're definitely rooted in Kentucky. I know you've spoken about being very proud of your upbringing and where you're from, but you've lived all over. You know, you've been out of Kentucky a few different states and have a pretty wide range of things you've done. And so I'm assuming that some of those experience really helped shape your leadership style and your political vision. I mean, staying rooted in Kentucky, but also getting out and kind of seeing influences of different areas as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've traveled to 49 states. I'm going to hit Alaska at some point in my lifetime. It's eye-opening. I left Gallatin County at 17, and I spent the summer with my grandmother in Pendleton County, a little place, a little blip on a radar called Peach Grove, literally in a holler in between the two hills. I have great memories. One of my favorite of living there that summer was, you've got some people have a rototiller. She did not. And so we had one of those manual ones you would normally tie a cow to the front or a horse to. But instead, I was the horse and I was manually doing it to plow in between the corn and the beans and all that. So again, my roots are very deep. So I'd like to say that as time has or as I've traveled and time's progressed over the last 20 something years of being an adult, I have learned a lot of culture. I started living in Lexington, then I moved to Columbus, Ohio, and Northern Kentucky, many spots, Atlanta and Baltimore, Dover, Delaware, and then I moved back to Kentucky in 2018, somewhere in that ballpark. And I'm thankful that I did, spending 15, 20 years away and then coming back to where I always call home to begin with. It's a great feeling. And it's just I feel now that it is my responsibility of sorts to kind of give back to the community that's always been there.
Well, I did look in your on your website and some of the jobs that you had. You had quite a few where you were managing some large teams, it sounds like, and probably some teams that were pretty spread out. And it seems like that would applying that to the role of a congressperson. It seems like being able to manage those disparate things and distances, or the multitasking involved. Seems like that would apply to your politics and the position you're trying for as well.
Yeah. No. I think I'm the perfect person for this role. I know otherwise I wouldn't be doing it, and it feels great to do it. I've worked as a barista in college, and it was a lot of fun because I got to be me. And in high school, I worked at a local gas station, and I started college when I was 17, and I didn't graduate in at UK. After I graduated high school in 2004, I ran out of money, which many people can relate to. It's tough going to a college, and you get halfway through, you run out of funds, so you have to go into the working world. And so I did,
Mhm.
and I worked for UK in the HR department for a while. And I was like, you know what? I'm really good at this whole leading thing. I like people. So as I've gotten older, I've gained more experience, polished, if you will, my leadership skills. And I used to think being a manager was what I wanted to do. I managing's more of the task side of things, and I'm more of a leader, and I enjoy taking people along with me. And it brings me a sense of self accomplishment when I can help people reach their full potential and get them to the next step on where they want to go. My last role with an inventory company, if you will. And we had thousands of people coast to coast, and we would do inventories for local businesses. And it was a lot of fun in a different city, different state every day. It took a lot of time. I was rarely home. It's taxing when it comes to a relationship. My better half, Shayna, she made a lot of sacrifices where she wouldn't see me for a couple weeks at a time sometimes, where I'd get home, she'd pick me up from the airport. I'd come home, I'd sleep for 14 hours. I'd do work because you got to get things caught up. And then you leave out again on a Sunday, and it's just so tough. So it's right now for where I'm at, it's kind of nice to be able to sleep in my own bed and spend time with her. And the way that I relate that to the career in the political world is I will be making an impact for 560,000 people, as opposed to the 4,000 people that I had before. And I felt great working with 4,000 employees. I can only imagine how I'm going to feel having 500,000 people that I can talk to, or I can literally on my Saturday, she and I can drive and have a cup of coffee and just talk to people and what's going on in their world. Shayna is more of an introvert than an extrovert, so I'm confident I'll be doing more of the talking than she will. But she and I both love to travel still, so this will be a great opportunity for me to be able to spend time with her, have a life, have a relationship, and at the same time still do what I have a passion for, which is helping people, hearing people. And sometimes all people really need is just to get it out. And I'm looking forward to taking that and sharing those experiences with the fourth district and others of Kentucky.
Yeah, I was once a road warrior as well, so I know where you're coming from on that. But before we get into kind of the policy and your platform, I did want to just talk just about your cancer diagnosis and what you've overcome because it's truly inspiring. So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, this is a tough one. If you're watching on YouTube, this is a good time to pause it, grab you a tissue or two. I can share that in May of 2024, well, technically the last day of April, 2024, I found a lump in my left armpit. And that lump, I was told to go immediately from my doctor's office, and I went over to the cancer center at St. Elizabeth and got my scan. They thought it was breast cancer, and took 3 weeks for me to get my results back, but it ended up being a melanoma. You think of melanoma as something that's on top of your skin, but this melanoma was under my skin in my lymph nodes. So it started somewhere else, and they don't know where. So it ended up being considered metastatic malignant melanoma with an unknown primary, is all the gobbledygook that comes with it. And so that was in May that I got the formal diagnosis. I started an immunotherapy. Well, I tried to start an immunotherapy at University of Cincinnati, and the insurance company said that I wasn't going to live long enough for them to be able to validate me getting treatment. So my insurance company and I had a few choice words, and I did not like that experience. I couldn't believe that I was going to give the power of life and death to an insurance company. And I was like, this isn't right. I'm a fighter, I'm a survivalist, and I don't give up at all, not easily. And so I decided to find a different way. So working with my doctor, Dr. Chaudhry at UC, she was able to partner with a doctor at St. Elizabeth, whom I also had worked with, and Dr. Flora at St. Elizabeth contacted the manufacturer on my behalf, and he was able to get free treatment through the manufacturer. So I was able to get my immunotherapy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. The tumor was 6 centimeters by 10 centimeters. So it's 1.5 times the size of a grapefruit in your left armpit. I can't even raise my arm now. But if I did, my arm was out like this almost nonstop because I couldn't put it down. And it hurt, of course. All of that occurred. And once the radiation got in there, it really started to shrink. And so it shrunk down to half the size. And so once it shrank, I was able to contact my surgeon in Texas. And he told me that I could come to Texas, get the surgery. So I spent roughly 6 weeks in Texas with surgery and recovery and all the other stuff. And that was on November 25th of 2024 that I had surgery. It was phenomenal. I wasn't supposed to have made it past Christmas of 2024. My doctor at MD Anderson in Texas, which is where I had the surgery, he told me in August of last year that I would not make it past Christmas. Spoiler alert, I'm still here and I'm still fighting. Now, instead of fighting for my life, I'm fighting for people. So that's my cancer story in short. It's truly inspiring for a lot of people. And the one thing that I can give in the role that I'm in now is hope. I can give somebody hope because when you're given a really tough diagnosis, I want you to know that that's not always the answer. You can find a different way to go around it. And don't stop fighting, no matter the cause, because there's a way. If you want it, there's a way. You just got to find a way to do it. So thanks, Natalie, for letting me share that. I'll share one other thing and then we can go on. But my community was there when I needed them this past year. And that's a big driver of why I am doing what I'm doing, running for Congress. There's a group of ladies called Jesse's Angels, and I still wear their pin. A group of ladies in my neighborhood, they're awesome. And I'll pan the camera here. And you can see I still carry the board that they gave me when I went to Texas. And it says, "You're not alone." And that's true. I'm not alone. And I know that. And they do wonders, making me feel great, getting my medicines, checking on my mental health when I needed it. And it was a phenomenal experience having them in my life. And I didn't realize how great. And so I'm taking that and I'm running with it. And it's my turn to be there for my community, for people.
Well, I mean, your experience just, just speaks to how critical, scientific and medical research and, our capabilities of addressing, diseases and injuries and just everything that comes down the line, how important that is. And it makes you a really strong advocate for healthcare because you've lived it and know how important it is. And one of your key campaign messages is about making healthcare accessible and affordable. So, what specific reforms would you advocate for in Congress, especially in light of, your own personal experience? I think is going to add a lot of weight to that.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much. There's a segment that I like doing. It's called Real, capital REAL Kentuckians. I'm a real Kentuckian because I'm living the experience. Thomas Massey, the incumbent on the Republican side, he's not a real Kentuckian. He's a multimillionaire who gets electricity off of his solar panels on his house. He is not who we are, the people that actually live in Kentucky. He's not a farmer in Grant County who has to go to work every day and then come home and feed the cattle, or somebody who lives in Covington and walks to work down the street. He's not that guy. So with that being said, living as a real Kentuckian, I can advocate a lot easier because I'm living the experience, fighting for Medicaid because I'm on Medicaid. I know how difficult it is to find a dentist. It takes hours and hours and hours through the Medicaid program because there are only just a couple in Northern Kentucky that take the programs. So getting back to your question, because I have a roundabout way of getting to that, maybe I will be a good politician after all. Um, uh, there's a few things that I'd go through, and I'll keep it at 30,000 feet for now because I could really delve into a lot of this stuff. But if we can find a way to make it where healthcare is accessible for everyone, that would be the best alternative to what we have now, because people should not have to fight for, do I have food on the table or do I pay a bill to my medical provider? Life's full of tough choices, but we should not have to make those kind of life and death choices. I should not have had to have listened to an insurance company tell me that I wasn't going to live. I'm very open when it comes to my financial status. I'm clearly not a millionaire. I'm probably the poorest politician you will ever meet. My journey through my cancer experience has broke me, literally broke me down to the bone, almost literally.
Yeah, and access to healthcare isn't a red issue or a blue issue, right? It's a human rights
Mhm.
issue for sure. And, I think that that would speak kind of across the aisle. And I know you talk a lot about having this divided political climate that we're in, and we want to close that gap. And it seems like this is an issue that we should be able to find some pretty bipartisan collaboration on. And I just wanted you to speak a little bit about that piece and how you would try to work where it's needed across the aisle. If this might be an issue that you would tackle that way, or if there are other issues that you see are opportunities.
Yeah, there's in my most recent experience having thousands of employees, I learned a lot. I learn in every experience every day when I wake up. I have learned an ability to find things that are common between us and taking those commonalities and building teams. One of my neighbors, one of Jesse's angels, she's a hardcore Republican. She's not MAGA, I want to be clear about that, but she considers herself fiscally conservative and socially conservative. And so we've had some really great discussions, and I've been able to spend a lot of time over the years talking with her about things. And it helped me feel more confident working across the aisle because it doesn't have to be me versus them or Jesse versus that person. It can easily be a conversation of why. And then when we talk it out, I give my side of why. Well, how can we reach a middle ground? Or what's so different? Maybe they're right and maybe they can change my mind, or vice versa. And it comes down to we're talking about working across the aisle, it truly comes down to what is important and how do we talk about it and how do we get it out? And that's where so much communication comes through. And when somebody has a difference of opinion, it's great because that's how we move forward. We have a difference of opinion. Let's talk about it. Two heads are better than one. We can meet somewhere in the middle, not just as a negotiation tactic, but the truth lies somewhere in between. Working across the aisle, I find fun. I'm a problem solver. I have been by nature. I have a black belt in Lean Six Sigma, and what you do through all that is problem solve to begin with. And so I want to find a way to solve the problems, and asking the five whys across the aisle about something is just one of the tactics. If people get bored, you guys can Google the five whys and use that in your relationships at home. So in short, I enjoy working across the aisle, which some people would never say in their right mind, but I do enjoy it, and I find comfort in knowing that we're more alike than different.
Yeah, I actually spent some time at GE Aircraft when I worked there back in the day in Cincinnati, GE
Yeah.
Aerospace now, but I worked with a ton of black belts. And yeah, it was really interesting and I learned a lot. And, the key is how to approach a problem. And yeah, I commend you for doing that. And I think that will be very valuable in the political world. A great, feather in your cap there. Well, we're getting a little pressed on time and we had a couple of things that we wanted to talk about, but the one that I really kind of wanted to make sure that we touched upon was what's the one misconception that people might have about politics or politicians that you hope to change through your campaign? I mean, just from talking to you, I can tell you right now, you're not the typical guy that we would see as a politician, which I think is a bonus, is a good point, a good checkpoint in the plus column for you. But so I just, what do you feel about that? Like the misconception that people have about politics and politicians, which may weigh positively in your favor.
Yeah. As a real Kentuckian, I too have those concerns that you don't trust them, that they're out for an ulterior motive. I have those problems that they'll lie to you just to get you out of their face. They'll say what you want just to say, great, move out of the way, and then they're going to vote and do what they want. Instead of voting what the constituents want, they're going to vote what they want regardless. So I have those same concerns, and I'm not a career politician. I still don't consider myself a politician. Until you guys elect me, I'm not a politician. Technically, once you elect me, then I'll be a politician by definition. That said, I'm not trying to change anybody's misconceptions. The only thing that I'm trying to do is get a real Kentuckian into the White House, into Congress, into Washington, D.C., inside the Beltway, so that I can make a positive impact for real Kentuckians. That is the only thing I'm trying to do at this point.
That's great.
That's
Sounds
fair.
good.
Well, Jesse, before we let you go, we do like to do a little rapid fire lightning round with all of our guests to get to know you a little bit better, if you're up for that.
I do, and I'm excited for this. I love a lightning round.
All right,
Except
sounds
for,
good.
again, my answers are never short.
Most of our guests do. They light up when they talk about the lightning round.
All righty, so we'll start it off with an easy one. What was your very first job?
I would say working for my county newspaper, the Gallatin County News, writing a column called News from the Schools.
All right, so you talked a little bit about being on the campaign trail, being able to spend time with your better half, I think, as you called her. What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day of being on that campaign trail?
Yeah. Noteworthy, Shayna, she's officially my fiance. We'll get married at some point sooner than later.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Empathy, unity, and progress. It's my campaign slogan. So I love the soft skill side of things. And so laying in a hammock when I get home in my front yard. So I lay out there in the hammock and the flower bed. So that's, I think, how I enjoy it.
All righty. If you could pass one bill tomorrow, and you had a magic wand, what would you do?
Magic wand, aside from the healthcare and all the things that are the serious stuff. One that I'm really passionate about is at public pools, having every half an hour an announcement made as a reminder to wear sunscreen. That one can't be controversial by any means, but it's the small little things that make the difference, because a half an hour at a pool goes by so quickly. And you forget to put on sunscreen, especially if you've had an adult beverage or two.
Very good point. I wouldn't know anything about that.
That's completely foreign to me.
All righty. I know that you have a cat. We don't get a lot of cat people on the show. So how many cats are too many?
Technically, I'm a dog guy. Shane is a cat lady. So naturally, we have 2 cats that are indoor, and we've adopted one outside, but multiple keep coming. So I'll say 3 is too many, especially for the 1,000-square-foot condo that we have. I'll say 3 is too many.
That's fair.
I'm happy with the 2 we got, Jack and Charlie. Also, hashtag Jack and Charlie for Congress.
There you go. And we talked about how you lived in many different states. What is your favorite city outside of Kentucky that you've visited?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say Burlington, Vermont.
Yeah.
So chill, literally and figuratively. It's just so calm, especially go to the island. So I'm going to go Burlington, Vermont. Shortest answer I'll give all day.
That is up there. Well, this might be your shortest answer. The next one. This is the last one. Okay, if you had to do one of these 2 things, would you choose to sing or dance in public in front of a crowd?
Sing. Don't like either, but I'd sing. My body moves like a 2x4. Can't do it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I did want to cover one more thing really quickly. You have a fundraiser coming up.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, October 7th in Covington at Winslow Whiskey. I've got Trey
Okay.
Taylor, artist, musician, flying in town. We'll have a great evening of music, nice dinner being served, and you can go behind the scenes and see the mash and see how they do things and actually see the still, all the fun things. So it'll be a phenomenal experience. So please go to votejessebrewer.org, get your tickets while you can. It's going to be an intimate experience, roughly 130-ish people. That way you can get autographs and it'll be a great time. So yeah, please, please, please come join me. It'll be a fun night.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. I appreciate you, Natalie. Appreciate you, Brian. This has been a great experience. And I'm happy to get to talk to more people along the campaign trail.
All right. Sounds great.
All
Thanks
right.
again.
Good luck to you. Take care.
All right. And as you know, we like to wrap it up with a call to action. Remember, all politics are local, as they say, and the fight for what is right isn't happening just in Frankfurt or Washington. It's happening in your community. So you can attend a town hall, volunteer, donate supplies. Our Young Dems are having a back to school drive right now, which you can help out with. So there's all kinds of things that you can get involved in, and all of those local actions definitely make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, above all, share the facts. Let your neighbors know that rising costs, school cuts, and threats to the truth being taught to our nation's students are the result of harmful Republican policies, and that there's a better way forward.
Yeah, and another way to get involved is to join us on August 30th, and we're going to be hosting another deep canvassing event at Randolph Park in Covington. And this is just a powerful way to connect with voters. You can listen to their concerns and build real relationships in our community. And right after that, we're going to keep the momentum going by inviting everyone to join us for the Kenton County Dems family picnic, also at Randolph Park. It's a great chance to just relax and connect and celebrate all of the great work we've done. So bring your family, bring a friend, and bring your appetite. We'll have hot dogs, drinks, stuff like that. I know
Sounds
you probably
great.
have some stuff on your calendar, Brian, right?
Well, there are some things coming up. I'm still getting pretty amped up for the Labor Day Workers Over Billionaires National Day of Resistance. That's really the next big organized day of resistance. And I keep checking the 50, 51, and indivisible.org sites. We've talked about those before. And new events, new protests, demonstrations on Labor Day keep getting added. So it's going to be massive. I think it's a great opportunity for our listeners to maybe join in and feel the joy and power that you get from venting with a community of like-minded people. It's a lot of fun, and it's also very empowering. You come away feeling, hopeful, and I really enjoy that. And also, I've been seeing more and more reports about just spontaneous demonstrations that are cropping up all over the nation. And it appears that in some cities and towns, people just show up with signs and on a regular basis. For instance, like every Saturday morning on, this intersection, people show up and they get together and they bring attention to the latest round of outrageous and extreme actions by our criminal president and his band of bootlickers. And then, some other things that are maybe a little more substantive. I've discovered two resources that are tracking public demonstrations and other grassroots activities on a regular, near daily basis. Both of these are on Substack, so I just wanted to quickly note them. The first one is The Contrarian on Substack, and this is an outstanding account. It was started by Jennifer Rubin, who was formerly an opinion writer for the Washington Post. I read her religiously. She's very good. And Norm Eisen, who many of our listeners may have heard of. He's a well-known, successful pro-democracy litigator, and Norm is involved with and behind many of the court victories that we're seeing here against the Trump regime. If you look, you'll see his name on there. He is amazing. The Contrarian Substack just started a section that it's devoting to daily coverage of the democracy movement. I have that in caps. That's what they're calling it, the democracy movement. Demonstrations, signs, protests, memes, etc. Just what's happening every day. I'm very excited to start looking at that. The second is one called Mr. Checkpoint, and it's MR Checkpoint. It's easy to find. If you go to Substack, Go to their search bar, just plug in checkpoint. It's the first thing that comes up. And I found out about this completely randomly from a tweet that I saw on some other YouTube video where there had been an ICE raid, and a Hispanic man was pulled out of his car as he and his family were going to church on Mother's Day. And the neighbors and bystanders, people in the community, were so outraged that they fought against that. And they had referenced Mr. Checkpoint as a place to go to find out what's going on in your community. So I checked it out. And this site has grassroots, crowdsourced public posts on ICE raids, updates and community reports, breaking stories, raw video, know your rights tools, which are very important. Also, interestingly enough, DUI checkpoints and a lot of other localized community services about what's going on in your community all around, your civil rights. So I just learned of the site. I haven't spent much time on it, but it sounds very interesting and maybe worth checking out. My goal is to stay as informed real time as possible with pro-democracy actions and events. And I hope our listeners find some of this information and these resources to be of value.
Yeah, you have certainly opened up my eyes to Substack. I haven't gotten on until you started telling me about some of these great resources to look at. So I definitely appreciate digging into that a little bit.
Yeah, it can be a little overwhelming, but there's a lot of good stuff, and you can find some things that really appeal to you that you can follow regularly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that is it for this podcast. Thank you so much for joining. And we look forward to seeing you at Randolph Park and everywhere Kentuckians are coming together to fight for a better future.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks to bring you up to speed with all things political in Kenton County and beyond.
And don't forget, you can join the conversation at our Facebook and Instagram pages or at blue.podcast.com. And we also have a YouTube channel now where you can actually see us if you want to. And
be careful what you wish for.
Right on, we're here. And if you like listening to the podcast, please consider donating to help fund it, which you can do by clicking on the donate link at blue.podcast.com. And thank you to all those who have donated thus far. It's very much appreciated. And until next time, just remember to stay curious, keep the facts in focus, and never stop fighting for what matters. Peace out, everybody.